Did you know that there are places in the world where breathing can make you sick and where the simple act of drinking water poses a mortal risk? In these countries, pollution is not news, it is part of everyday life. Streets full of garbage, rivers turned into sewers, and air so thick you can almost cut it with a knife. But this goes far beyond the visual or the unpleasant. What happens when millions of people grow, work and die surrounded by toxic waste? Today I'll take you on a tour of the 10 dirtiest countries on the planet. You won't just see the mess, you'll understand the reasons for the environmental collapse, and why it could be just the beginning. Translated with deepl.com, free version. Afghanistan. Historically, Afghanistan has been a crossroads for the Silk Road, with a rich cultural heritage ranging from mystical poetry to impressive fortresses in the middle of the desert. It has produced legendary heroes, ancient musical and artistic traditions. But if we set foot on its streets today, especially in Kabul, the capital, we are confronted with a bleak picture. Years of war and governmental neglect have resulted in mountains of uncollected garbage. Dead animals are frequently found in the streets, and the lack of drinking water leads the population to rely on contaminated wells. Restrictions and extreme poverty mean that food and sanitation take a back seat for many families. According to UNICEF, 100 children die each year from diseases related to unsafe water in contact with decaying waste. In addition, air pollution, fueled by constant fighting and the burning of precarious fuel, fills people's lungs with soot. When people lack health services and education, it is almost impossible to create an awareness of the cleanliness of the environment, let alone implement systems to ensure waste collection. You are probably wondering, if the situation is so bad in Afghanistan, what will it be like in the countries that follow? I assure you that the picture is not getting any better, so pay attention, because this is just the beginning. Chad. Chad is known for the spectacular lake that bears its name and for its impressive deserts and savannas, home to giraffes, elephants, and lions. However, the majority of its population suffers from extreme poverty, with less than $1 a day and very limited access to health services and education. In urban areas, garbage accumulates in the streets, mixing with dead animals and human waste due to the lack of sewage networks. Humanitarian organizations indicate that in recent years there have been epidemics directly related to the lack of hygiene and sanitation, such as cholera. It has been estimated that a high percentage of child deaths in Chad are related to gastrointestinal infections aggravated by the ingestion of contaminated water. The smell of rottenness pervades certain neighborhoods, and most people do not even have mouth covers to protect themselves from the dust that mixes with mountains of waste. At every turn, the idea that these places suffer not only from poverty, but also from a combination of historical, political, and even colonial factors, becomes more evident. If you're worried about how this list ends, sit tight. Because coming up next is a country where environmental devastation and filth converge in shocking ways. India. India is a country with more than 300,001,000 of inhabitants. It is known for its vibrant culture, colorful festivals, unparalleled cuisine, and its historical past includes great empires and architectural wonders such as the Taj Mahal. However, rapid industrialization and uncontrolled urbanization in cities such as Delhi, Mumbai, and Calcutta have resulted in one of the biggest environmental chaos on the planet. Air pollution in Delhi has reached levels where schools must close at certain times of the year, and visibility can be reduced to the point where it is unsafe to drive. In addition, India is home to some of the world's holiest rivers, such as the Ganges, which unfortunately is also one of the most polluted. Every year tons of industrial waste, chemicals, and even corpses are dumped into the river, generating a focus of infections and diseases that affect 1 million people who use it for bathing and drinking. No less serious is garbage management. Many cities have gigantic landfills, real mountains of plastic and organic matter where dogs and rats roam, and from where families without resources also scavenge to rescue what they can sell or eat. Data on premature deaths linked to air pollution exceed 1,500 per year in the country. In addition, the lack of access to toilets in a large part of the rural and marginal urban population generates scenes where the streets are used as open toilets, which encourages the spread of diseases, Simply put, India reflects the complexity of a colossus that advances with gigantic developments in technology and science but has failed to provide something as basic as clean streets and breathable air to the majority of its citizens. Mongolia. Mongolia is world-renowned for its vast steppes, the legacy of Yemis Khan and its impressive equestrian tradition. It is a country that for many travelers represents the last great frontier of Asia, with inhospitable landscapes that amaze anyone who visits it. However, in winter, the situation in its capital, Ulaanbaatar, is critical. The extreme cold forces 100 million people to use low-quality coal and wood as fuel for heating, generating a cloud of pollution that can even rival that of large industrial cities. The result is heavy air, laden with PM 2.5 and PM 10 particles. These are considered highly harmful to health. Data from environmental agencies indicate that the concentration of these particles in the coldest months can exceed several times the limit considered safe by the S. This brings with it an increase in respiratory diseases. This leads to an increase in respiratory diseases. The smog is so thick that walking around the city becomes an ordeal for those unaccustomed to this level of pollution. In addition, waste management infrastructures are not the best in outlying areas, so open dumps can grow unchecked, with a stench that engulfs entire communities. Knowing that such a majestic place is succumbing to pollution makes us reflect on how development, if not planned responsibly, can kill the health of an entire country. Stay with me, because we are going to plunge into even more areas devastated by filth and neglect. In the issue, Nigeria, known worldwide for its powerful film industry called Nollywood, as well as for its rich Afrobeat music and literature by authors such as Chinua Achebe. Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa. However, that economic potential has failed to translate into adequate infrastructure to handle the waste of a population that exceeds 200 million. Cities such as Lagos and Onitsha face seasonal levels of air pollution that are unbearable, and their waters are full of chemical and industrial waste. Lake slums, located on lagoons or canals, are choked with garbage. People literally live on top of plastic debris, rusted metals, and decaying organic matter. Some NGOs report that the contamination of drinking water causes at least 150,000 Nigerians to die annually from waterborne diseases. On the other hand, sites where electronic waste is burned have become one of the worst sources of pollution. Toxic substances such as lead and mercury are released, which can cause irreversible damage to the nervous system. One is surprised to see that Nigeria's oil wealth coexists with a total precariousness of basic cleaning services and an environmental chaos that translates into lives taken away. Let's move on, because the fourth place on this list paints an even starker picture. Iraq. Iraq, at one time, was the cradle of glorious civilizations such as Mesopotamia, home to legendary cities such as Babylon. It prides itself on having been a cradle of knowledge, astronomy, and engineering in medieval Islamic times. However, for decades, it has been immersed in conflicts that have devastated its infrastructure. As a result, the streets of Baghdad and other cities are filled with makeshift garbage dumps, and the combination of insecurity and lack of a strong central government results in practically no cleanliness. It is common to find stagnant water channels with floating garbage and a putrid stench that can be felt from several meters away. Electricity cuts force the population to use diesel generators, which fills the air with smoke and microparticles that aggravate asthma rates and lung problems. According to the International Red Cross, a significant portion of child deaths in Iraq are due to diarrheal and respiratory diseases caused by widespread filth and unhealthy conditions. Add to this the military waste and chemical contamination left over from years of conflict and bombing. Inevitably, one wonders how 1 million people survive in an environment with so many daily threats. Moreover, I invite you to follow through to the end, because what we will discover about the next destinations will blow your mind. Pakistan. Pakistan, with its rich history encompassing the Lindo Valley civilization, religious monuments to Islam, Hinduism and Sikhism, and majestic landscapes such as the Karakoram Peaks, is today plunged into a serious pollution problem. Cities like Karachi and Lahore register very high air pollution rates, especially in winter when the smog becomes oppressive and hazardous to health. Garbage management is almost non-existent in slums, where people live with mountains of waste that often end up blocking stormwater channels. When the rainy season arrives, flooding becomes more destructive because water cannot flow through the accumulated garbage. The problems extend to drinking water, as it is estimated that about a third of the population does not have access to clean water, which promotes the spread of cholera, hepatitis, and other infections. At least 100,000 deaths a year are linked to the lack of hygiene and extreme insalubrity, according to local organizations. It is impressive to think that a country with so much cultural and natural heritage drags so much environmental misery. I invite you to stay until the end, because this first place is perhaps the most striking example of a territory where filth has taken on a life of its own. Central African Republic. This nation nestled in the heart of Africa is known for its immense natural wealth. There are national parks inhabited by elephants, gorillas, and other endangered species. It also has unique geological formations and a subsoil that harbors diamonds and gold. On paper, the Central African Republic is an ecological jewel. The problem: decades of political instability and conflict have prevented the consolidation of cleanup systems or basic infrastructure. In many of its cities, garbage collection is practically non-existent. As a result, the streets are flooded with waste. The lack of drinking water forces a large part of the population to drink contaminated water sources, increasing the risk of diarrheal diseases, malaria, and other infections. Further, chronic poverty and scarce international support have led to a vicious circle in which people without resources pollute rivers and soil to survive, which in turn worsens their own health. Estimates by health organizations speak of 1,000 deaths a year from outbreaks of cholera and acute diarrhea, and it is not uncommon for organic waste to accumulate in urban centers, generating unbearable odors and attracting scavengers. In some neighborhoods, it is even common to see children rummaging through garbage to find something to eat or sell, exposing themselves to a host of infections. The history of the Central African Republic is a story of cultural resilience, and of an imposing nature, but also of a fragile system that has put it on the threshold of environmental catastrophe. So don't stop here. In the next few minutes I will present you with even more dramatic realities. You will see how the lack of environmental policies can lead an entire country to a situation where air, water, and land are practically weapons against its own people. A war-torn country. Syria. Syria is famous for its millenary history and cultural richness. Damascus, considered one of the oldest cities in the world, is full of tales of ancient civilizations, trade routes, and the undeniable imprint left by empires such as the Fall and the Romans. It is also known for its textiles, gastronomy, and impressive archaeological heritage, home to sites such as Palmyra. However, after several years of conflict, the reality in many Syrian regions has become bleak. The streets, once vibrant with markets and culture, are now full of rubble and garbage, and in the worst cases, dead bodies as a result of the violence and the lack of infrastructure for their proper management. Drinking water is scarce, access to sanitation systems is precarious, and with the destruction of part of the waste management facilities, people often end up living among piles of garbage. The statistics on diseases related to contamination and unhealthy conditions are alarming. International agencies report that cases of cholera and other international diseases have skyrocketed in areas where there are no functional sewage networks. According to estimates by the World Health Organization, 1,000 deaths a year in Syria could be due to lack of clean water and contact with waste. Imagine walking through dusty streets, unfiltered combustion smoke, remnants of explosions, and the hopelessness of not finding an adequately equipped hospital. That is the reality of many places that, with the devastation of war, have come to live in an environment where filth has become normalized. But don't go away, because what I'm going to tell you in the next few countries will make you understand how precariousness and lack of policies can turn an entire place into an open-air dump. Keep joining us, because what you will discover could change your perspective on global pollution. Bangladesh. Bangladesh is famous for its high population density, its cuisine based on curry and rice, and for having one of the largest deltas in the world, formed by the Ganges, Brahmaputra, and Magna rivers. It is a country rich in cultural traditions, folk music, and a resilient spirit in the face of adversity. However, it has become the epitome of mindless pollution. The capital, Dhaka, is one of the most polluted cities on the planet. The air is filled with emissions from textile mills, old vehicles, and 1 million diesel-powered generators. In addition, waste management is so poor that almost the entire city smells of decaying garbage mixed with stagnant water. For many, getting around on foot means dodging mountains of waste and puddles that give off sulfuric odors. According to the WHO, air pollution in Bangladesh causes more than 160,000 premature deaths a year. On the other hand, dyeing and tanning factories dump their chemicals into rivers and canals, where the communities fish and get their water supply. The result is outbreaks of diseases such as cholera and other diarrheal conditions, as well as skin problems and malformations associated with prolonged exposure to heavy metals. You see pictures from Bangladesh and you are shocked. People living in shantytowns erected in the midst of garbage dumps, entire families bathing in toxic water, and an air so thick you can barely see the sky. Against this backdrop, it is easy to understand why it is at the top of this list of the dirtiest countries. Now that you know the most polluted corners of the planet, the question is, are we really so far from ending up the same way? The filth we see today in other countries could be a reflection of our own future if we don't change course. Because pollution has no borders, and what we ignore today will catch up with us tomorrow. If this video made an impact on you, share it. Let the world see what many prefer not to see. And subscribe, because in the next episodes we will reveal even darker secrets about the hidden side of our planet.